Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Just Colleen podcast. Have you ever heard that song, Intuition by Jewel? Well, today we're going to talk about something that can feel sometimes incredibly lonely. It's that experience that your gut instinct is telling you something is wrong about a person, but nobody else seems to see it. Nobody else believes it. In fact, not only do they not see it, they think you may be the problem. They think you're being too sensitive, too judgmental, suspicious, maybe even too negative. Or maybe you're a little bit crazy. And if you've ever been in that situation, which I know I have, then this episode is just for you. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You meet that person, and from the very beginning, something just doesn't feel right. You can't explain it. It's not something that you have proof of, physical proof. You don't have a bunch of examples that you can share. It's just that feeling, that gut instinct, that little voice inside of you that keeps saying, pay attention around this person. But then everybody else around you, they absolutely adore that person. Maybe they're charming. They're funny. They may be someone who's super helpful too. And people maybe are even constantly talking about just how amazing that person is. And meanwhile, you're sitting there wondering if you're the only person seeing what may be going on here. At first, you kind of keep those feelings to yourself, right? You tell yourself, maybe my instincts, maybe I'm not reading them correctly. Maybe I'm being unfair and I'm not getting a chance to know this person. Or maybe it's just a misunderstanding. You got off on the wrong foot. But after time, that feeling, it just doesn't go away. And if anything, it just keeps getting stronger. And you start noticing like little things at the beginning, right? Inconsistencies, comments that they make. They just don't kind of sit right with you, Stories that they seem to change. Maybe there's moments where their actions just don't match their words. And then eventually you start to try to tell people, someone close to you, maybe a friend or, your companion, your partner. And not because you're trying to create drama or even attention. It's because you've got this feeling and you're genuinely concerned, right? You care about people and you want to always see the good in people around you. And you honestly believe these people, they have to be missing something that's important. Or are you looking too deeply into it? So you go ahead, you say something, right? You say it to a family member or a close friend, a partner, and then what happens? They look at you like you have completely lost your mind. They give you that smirk. You're the crazy one. Then they, in one way or another, tend to defend that person. Oh, but they're so useful and they're so helpful and they're so nice. Or, I'm trying to help them because they have this medical issue. I've never seen them do that or say anything like that. And then while you're sitting there thinking, something's just not right. Maybe you're reading too much into it. Maybe you're being too sensitive. Maybe you're being paranoid. And after you hear those things enough times, you actually begin to start questioning yourself. Am I possibly imagining things? Or, what is it that I'm seeing that someone else isn't? Maybe you feel like, you just had an off day and you're overreacting. But here is what I've learned. And this is going to sound kind of off because I have noticed in my entire lifetime a certain person with the same first name. They look the same. They have the same stature. They have the same arrogance. So then you have to take a reflection real quick and see, what is it that I need to learn from this person? But then at the same token, your gut is noticing something that your conscious mind can't explain. Your brain is constantly collecting this information, their facial expressions, their comments, their patterns, their energy, their behavior, their contradictions. And sometimes it puts all of those pieces together before you're even fully aware of what's happening. That's why you feel something is wrong before you can explain why. Your intuition. So now I'm going to be clear about something. Your intuition, it isn't perfect, right? Nobody's intuition is. Sometimes we're influenced by past experiences or old wounds, such as what I was talking about. Same people, same first name, same personality, same gut feeling. And then there's times where we're wrong. But I think where many people, they make that mistake is completely dismissing that inner voice just because they can't immediately prove it or prove it to someone else. Not everything shows up as evidence. Most of the time, that character of that other person is going to reveal itself over time. Truth always prevails. And here's the part that can be so frustrating. You keep trying to warn people, even in subtle ways. You keep trying to kind of explain what you're feeling, and nobody seems to be listening. In fact, the more you try to explain what you're feeling, the crazier they think you are. Have you ever noticed that? Because I know I have. And the more concerned you become, the more people act like you're the problem. You're the crazy one. Why can't you just let it go? Well, you're sitting there thinking, because something just isn't right. It just isn't right. And then, you just stop talking. You stop sharing. Not because the feeling went away, but because you're exhausted. You distance yourself from those people. Yeah, you're exhausted because you keep trying in even subtle ways to convince people what is happening. What is it about this person? And you are the one who keeps being misunderstood. They're turning the tables on you now. Now you're standing alone. So you take a step back. You watch, you observe, and all you can do is wait. And then something tends to happen. They don't sit back and say, oh my gosh, she said that she had a feeling about that person. And then eventually time starts revealing things, right? Again, maybe it's not immediate. Maybe it's not even for months. But eventually people begin to see what you saw. They need to see it in their own perspective. The behavior, the comments, the lies, they become visible. The manipulation becomes obvious. The patterns, they end up becoming undeniable. And then suddenly people start having experiences with this person that make them uncomfortable. And all you can do is sit back and say, I tried to tell you, but you don't want to say that. And the strangest part is, many of those same people who thought you were the crazy one, you want them to start saying things like, maybe I think you were right. Maybe I should have listened to you. Now I see what you were talking about. But they don't. And while there may be a small part of you that feels validated now that they see it, there's also a part of you that's very sad because you never really wanted to be right. You weren't trying to win any competition or argument. You were just simply trying to protect the people around you. That's what so many people misunderstood. When your concerns come from being so genuine and that intuition is so clear, you're not speaking up because you want conflict. You're speaking up because something inside of you is trying to keep people safe. So if you're listening today and you've made it this far, or you're currently in this situation, here's what I want you to remember. Word for the wise. You don't need anyone's agreement to trust yourself, to trust your gut, to trust your instincts. You don't need a group vote to validate those instincts. And you don't need to spend all of your energy trying to convince people who have already decided they're not going to listen to you. So go ahead, pay attention to what your gut's telling you. Stay observant. Keep those healthy boundaries. Let those people's actions reveal themselves. And understand that time has a way of exposing what charm often hides. Most importantly, don't let other people's belief system make you lose trust in yourself. Because sometimes being the only one who sees something doesn't mean that you're wrong. Sometimes it simply means you're seeing it before anyone else. All right, thanks so much for listening today. And if this episode resonated with you, know that you are not alone. Go ahead, trust yourself, trust your instincts, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Just Colleen podcast, and have a fantabulous day.